Welcome to this week's episode of Success in Women. I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea.
And we're here today as one of the last episodes. We've got one more before the end of the year, but it is so close to Christmas. We're at Christmas Eve, and I know that a lot of you ladies are very busy because the holidays are like really coming up on you very quickly. Yes. So in that honor, we've got a lot to talk about this week. And Andrea's going to start off with her tip because it's kind of timely for Christmas parties and going into the New Year's parties. So Andrea, what's your tip?
Well, I thought I'd give a little tip. There's actually a few about applying mascara because it's so important to have your eyes nice and bright. And sometimes people find it difficult to get it on properly, but I have learned a few tricks myself over the years. And so number one, when you start, make sure you're not pumping your mascara wand because that lets in bacteria, air, whatever. You just put it in, you throw it around, you're good to go. And when you're applying it, now this is something I learned because years ago, I used to always throw the mascara on and then I would use my eyelash curler. And it would stick and get all black and gooey. And then I was watching something on YouTube one day, and they were saying, you do it beforehand. Because I always thought, well, if there's nothing there to make it stick up, what's going to happen? But it actually does work. You curl them before you apply the mascara. And the other thing is, when you're doing your bottom lash, I find a lot of times you get a little black on your skin or little flakes fall off. Well, my girlfriend showed me this little trick. She takes a Kleenex or a piece of toilet paper and she just holds it right underneath and just brushes away. And they come out so beautiful. And then you don't have to worry about all this black on your eyes. And go ahead.
I was just going to say, I love that tip because I always have to get my little Q-tip and my makeup remover and start cleaning it up because there's always little spots underneath my eyes.
Yeah, and if you have trouble with the top one, like getting mascara, you could probably do the same. Yeah. But hers was just there, and because her bottom eyelashes always look gorgeous and thick. And I said, how do you do that without getting mascara all over the place? And she showed me. But another thing, if you love to have your eyelashes nice and lifted, they have this thing out now, which I do. It's called the eyelash lift. And it's almost like perming your eyelashes. And it only takes about 10 minutes or so. And then after they tint them and they're lifted as much as they can be, so that when you apply the mascara, like you only need one coat. And they just look so amazing. I'm getting mine done actually on the 21st. Can't wait. Wow. And yeah, and that's my cousin's daughter. She has that business, and she comes to the house. She'll come to your home, and she does a phenomenal job for eyebrows and eyelashes. You can't beat her. So if anybody wants to know her name, let me know. And that's it. So get pretty, ladies, and have fun.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing because you've earned it from all the work you've done all year, and you need to take this time. I just wanted to also tell you I'm wearing my Christmas shirt and had to do that because every year at Christmas I get to wear my shirt. I know it's a day early from Christmas Eve, but anyway, I had to show you ladies because
Linda,
you gotta have fun.
Linda, don't you remember? Linda and I are both curlers. And at Christmas time, we had a lot of Christmas bonspiels, and we all dressed up. I have so many cute Christmas sweaters that we used to wear when we would go curling at this time of year. It's so much fun. The more you get in, the more you're going to love Christmas.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Anyway, Andrea, I know that you, as well as the rest of the world, have all been sort of, getting a lot of information on what's going on with Harry and Meghan. And I thought, ladies, in anything in life, what happens is that whether you agree or disagree with what's going on with Meghan and Harry, and I have watched a lot of their, not just their Netflix series, but the clips from a lot of media, both I'll say in Britain and over in the United States, listening to both sides of, and mostly it's been very negative for Harry and Meghan. But I thought with when you listen and when you sort of, it's easy to judge, and we're not in anybody's shoes. And so, we really have to be careful not to overstep that, because we don't know. Even a lot of the media, they don't know. It's
And that's a lot of the problem in the media.
True. And the thing is, it's the good and the bad. And like us, Andrea, we would love to have media press. Obviously, we would want positive media, but they say any media is good media if you're looking for that, as far as getting your name out there. And their name is certainly out there.
And then the negative media seems to sell more.
Yes, it does. It does. And that's unfortunate.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right, Andrea. But one of the things I thought, we can take lessons from all of this. And I remember, it's not that long ago, because Judge Judy just kind of ended, her series. But I used to watch Judge Judy a lot. And one of the things that she started her show with a lot was always said, if you tell the truth, you don't need to have a good memory. And unfortunately, when people are listening to a lot of this stuff that's going on and being said about Harry and Meghan, and actually taking the information right from their own clips, the problem is that the story's changed several times. And at some points it was, this is the way it was. Then all of a sudden it turned and this is the way it was. So it's hard to know whether or not they're lying or just have a bad memory. But I always live by that lesson, try not to ever lie, because then I don't have to have a good memory. It is what it is. And I'll try to remember this is what it was. And if you make an excuse, and so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it, because there's been a lot of stuff, but also, Andrea, in the stuff that it seems like both Harry and Meghan are burning bridges in the sense of family. And, we all have family problems. You and I come from both large families. We've had issues, in our own families, but It's one of those things where you try to keep that private and work it out. Yes. Well, even with all of that, you can have issues with co-workers, you can have issues with a lot of people along the way. But what you never want to do is burn bridges. What you want to do is always keep doors open. Right. And even if I have, I'll say a falling out with a friend, a falling out with a family member, most of the time, I'm not the one holding the grudge, because it's kind of like, why bother? Right. If they're open, I'll always be open, because nobody's perfect. Exactly. And along the way, it's kind of though, do you sell your soul to the devil? Because for all the media coverage that Harry and Meghan didn't want, of course, they're in the media giving it their all. Unfortunately, giving their all is now burning some bridges, it looks like. And of course, with King Charles, I mean, this is his son, and you would hope that his door will always be open to Harry, regardless of what's been done and what's been said. But I was looking at the lessons that in all the things that went on and all of the things that they're saying, that can easily, while you're, I'll say, in your career mode, when you're looking for work or you are working, if you can keep certain things private and work it out, whether it's with the person that you're having a problem with, or you go directly to a boss, but you don't want to be, I'll say, talking behind the colleague's back and thinking that you're going to look good in front of the boss because you ratted somebody out. And that's the other thing that people sometimes think, it makes you look like a hero. But unfortunately, you might be overlooked for a promotion. And
Right.
so when you look at all of these things that are going on, and there's a lot of lessons, and if you want to take the time and spend 6 hours going through the Netflix series, not so much for what Harry, she calls him H, and I want to go with the H, and then I'm screwing up his name, but with Harry and Meghan, there's lots of lessons. But even in those lessons, you got to look at the contradictions that are going on and say, how can I use this lesson in my life? How can I make things better? Because you always want to look at any positive or negative situation and say, what's the lesson?
Right. Well, like in their situation, it's very hard because they are public figures, and the media will go to any lengths to get any little morsel and blow it out of proportion to make sales. And that's why I have a hard time with all of it, because first of all, I'm not really into the whole thing. It doesn't affect my everyday life, so I don't bother with it. But my husband has been watching some of it on Netflix, and I've been, here and there when I'm in the kitchen, hear some of it. Of course, you're intrigued by it, but I like when the media blows everything out of proportion. It's hard to know what's truth and what's lies and what's blown out of proportion. I would hate for the media to come every time I had a blowout with one of my family members or my husband, for it to be splashed all over the place. And here's what I find also. When you feel you're so right and you've been wronged everywhere by friends, you hear gossip that people are talking, because it happens in your own little community. You want to right that wrong all the time. And I think that's what she's going through. Maybe not so much Harry. He's just supporting his wife. He loves her so much. Now they have 2 children. They're gorgeous. But I think she feels she needs to get her, make everybody see that it was the media that blew everything out of proportion. Because from what I understand, she loved the Queen. She had a great relationship with her. And just things got blown up, hurt feelings,
But the thing is, Andrea, if you look around you, do you really want to hang around with a whiner? And you can't constantly whine and think that people are going to love you. I mean,
going on too long. Like, you know what? You left your position, whatever. I do not, how do I say this? I do not agree with what the monarchy did to Harry. Like, stripped him of everything. I mean, they came to Canada, and they had no security, nothing, and they had people knocking at their windows in the middle of the night trying to get pictures. I mean, that was for King Charles to do that to his son is beyond me. He could have said, listen, you want to go, I'll send the security with you for a time being, but then you have to go out on your own after that, whatever the time frame is. I don't know. There's so much.
Well, Andrea, she's not naive to media. She's, not an A-list actress, but she was an actress. And you know what the media is like in the States, especially.
Right,
and
right.
Actors and actresses are constantly bombarded with paparazzis popping up everywhere that they possibly can.
Well,
It's why they build fortresses around themselves, because they need some privacy.
Yeah, and Harry also, they.
Yeah, well, being a royal, absolutely.
Now, I don't know what their financial status was when they got to Canada. I mean, they could have maybe hired somebody, but from what I understand, she reached out to Tyler Perry, and he's the one that got the security for them and gave them his home in California until they were settled. And Tyler Perry is such a wonderful man. So he supports them. And I guess as a friend, maybe, like I said, I don't want to get involved with their this whole mess that they're in. But if they're nice people and people like them and they do good works, then it is what it is. But I feel sorry for her in a way. I think she didn't realize what she was in for.
I have a hard time believing that because, Andrea, a lot of little girls, want to be a princess. And if you even go above that fantasy and you get to marry this prince, usually you're going to have some insight on what happens. And just from past experiences, because obviously Diana was probably one of the most famous princesses out there in the royal family that was nonstop bombarded from the time she got married, well, even in the courtship to I'm sick today and I'm like my words are all over, but from her courtship with King Charles all the way through to her death.
Yes.
And that literally was her life. And you would have had to have lived under a rock not to know how bad it could be publicity wise being part of the royal family. Right. Even with Kate and William, because, as the up and coming king and queen, eventually, they're in the media all the time. Right. It's not something new, obviously not to Harry, but it's not to Meghan as well. Right. And since she sought him out to, want to marry him, it's kind of like one of those things where you got to know that that's going to be part of your life. And again, as an actress, she would have understood media's out there. And you can't ever expect, and Andrea, this is one thing, even for all of you ladies that have any kind of social media accounts, you're going to get bad comments and you're going to get positive comments. And what I've understood from a lot of actors now is that they don't even read, they don't even Google themselves anymore, because there's so many people that will go online because they feel they can just troll and trash anybody because they're sitting behind a computer. Right. And so if you take that, why is their opinion more important than your opinion? Why is their opinion, this troll that you haven't met, their opinion more validated than your spouse or your friends or your other family members? Why are you getting so, I'll say, upset about somebody you don't even know?
I think as humans, the negative hurts, and you always want to prove them wrong and just say, because like you say, when I am going through Facebook and I see an article about, say, like lately with Twitch, that the dancer that just passed away.
Unfortunately.
And, yes. And I was reading a lot of the comments and, stuff, but like you say, there's so much, some people are just cruel because they can be, or they're bitter or they're envy.
That's a good point though, Andrea. I think a lot of people, they don't have a lot going on in their life. And because they have no life, they don't want to see that anybody else is doing well. Right. Even if it's just well in the sense of security of having family and friends, that they want to find somebody negative. I remember this happened, even in my own profession, that somebody wrote some nasty stuff. And I'm like, when I give information, I just want to help people. Right. I've always really enjoyed helping and serving people. Even when I was younger, I'll say when I was in college, instead of going to the school dances, I worked the school dances, not because I wanted the money. I would have done it just as a volunteer, but I like to serve people. And, I just feel that way. If I can help make somebody else's day better, it makes me feel better. And actually, I have to tell you this too, because sometimes it's easy, because also one of the things that happened with Meghan is that she got accused of bullying, some staff members in the royal palace, and because they have non-disclosure, they can't talk about it. So we don't really know whether that happened or not happened. Right. But sometimes people can take things out of context because for me personally, I have a loud voice and it can sound really intimidating. And I might not, if I had staff like that, they could be insulted and hurt by the fact that I look like I'm being aggressive towards
Right,
them,
right.
but I'm not really. It's just my mannerism.
How you perceive, how you are perceived by others.
Right.
And that's the whole thing. You, I remember years and years ago, I took a course and they said, um, you you don't know how somebody's feeling. And just because you said something that you don't think they should be offended by, it's not up to you. They might be offended by it. So you have to think to yourself, oh, sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. I didn't realize you took that way, or that you feel that way. Like even with like, it was about children. So about a child, like, oh, stop crying. You shouldn't be crying. Well, they are crying. So deal with their feelings, not how you felt. So I guess that's with Megan, that they instead of, understanding her way, or maybe they should have said, excuse me, like, why are you talking to me like that? And she could have said, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. That's not what my intention was. But anyways,
Because
it's all
I can see how that would be misinterpreted for me often.
right.
And I have to tell you, Andrea, since we reconnected a number of years ago, I try to watch myself because I get a lot of good, I'm going to say, lessons from you in the way that you are, still to get your point across, but still to get, I'll say something, I'll say done or whatever. But because I have this, I don't know what you'd want to call it, but a natural instinct to be, I'm going to call it aggression. I don't mean it to be that way. And people who know me well don't
Yeah.
take it personally. But
Abrupt.
people who don't know me well would know that that's just the kind of person I am. And because of you, I am mostly a lot calmer in the way I handle things. Even
Good.
the way I drive, it's been an improvement because of you, because I was always a much more aggressive driver. And I'm like, I remember one time it's a problem. Like, it was just a very relaxing, we'll get there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to always be, pushing. And so it's interesting. And like you said, with the media and all of the things, whether you agree with Meghan and Harry, whether you don't agree, there's
Yeah.
so many lessons that you
Right.
can take from this and
Yeah.
say, but how can I apply that to my life to be better?
To be
You're
better.
seeing now some of it, what's working, and you're seeing what's not working.
Right.
Yeah, the part that they got a lot of money for this, is that the only motivation? Or did they really feel like they needed to get their truth out?
Right. I think that's a lot to do with it. And maybe the money, I don't know what their financial situation's like once he left.
Yeah, but Andrew, if you're getting offered $100 million to expose your family, you might say, oh, well, $100 million, I'm exposing my family. I'll deal with them later. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. More is better.
Yeah. Like, how do you know, right? Because you get this dangled in front of you, and it might be, okay, we could disappear and just go off and lead our private life. Or, gee, we could have $100 million and that would help us leave our private life. I don't know.
Somebody say, and I don't know if I read it or what, and it just said, after this documentary, that's it. They're not going to be talking about it anymore.
No, that's not true, Andrea.
Oh,
and I'll tell you why. In January, Harry's book is coming out called Spare. And apparently he saved some of the nuggets about his family for the book. So we don't know because no one's got a copy of it yet, but that's coming out in January. So no, this is not going away too soon. After that, it's hard to say because they won't have a whole lot left, but he's getting 20 million for the book. So they want it to sell, and it needs something new because a lot of people were disappointed in the Netflix series because they said that was all exposed on Oprah, and all they did was drag it out for 6 hours now. And so if they told everything that's going to be in Harry's book, again, the book wouldn't sell. And then, the 20 million that the publishers are paying would be for nothing. So hard to know.
It is hard to know. And like I said, I do feel for them. They started off just wanting to be a loving couple, and they found each other, they fell in love, they wanted to get married, and even in the beginning of the series, it shows how they tried to keep everything as low key for as long as possible, because they knew once it was out, that was it. Their lives were going to change forever. And it did. And unfortunately, Harry lost everything, which is a shame. And I'm sure his mother would have been very upset about that.
But the problem with Harry, though, is that he has undealt issues with his mother's death. And
so. Yeah.
He really, really needed a lot of counseling, which he's not really still gotten to the degree that he needs it. Yeah. And the problem is, and this brings us to mental health and recognizing when somebody, and you don't always recognize, because I have to tell you, I must live under a rock, because I didn't know which was until he passed away. And I found out because my assistant, who did know, told me about him. So after that, of course, I Googled, and everything I've read didn't indicate there was any clue that he had mental health issues. No. And so when I look at that, I'm thinking, did he really, or was he really murdered? And it made it look like he had mental health issues, because they're closing the case as suicide. But I'm beside myself trying to figure out a guy that had it all and seemed to have a happy marriage, had kids, just celebrated his 9th anniversary just before Christmas, had everything going. And he looked like the type of person, that you want to be friends with, because he was just a loving, giving person. And I haven't seen nothing come out on the media says otherwise.
Well, we because we're in the dance world, we've been following Twitch since he was a contestant on So You Think You Can Dance, and then when he became Ellen's DJ, we watched him, and he does a lot of online talk shows and stuff. And yes, my daughter and I both said when it happened, they said, no way, there's no way that man committed suicide. And also the timing. He was such a loving husband and father. I don't think he would have done it just before Christmas. My daughter said, "Oh, he was murdered. He was murdered." I don't know.
That's how I feel.
Never know.
And I didn't even know the guy, but everything I started Googling and doing a lot of research. Yeah, but Andrea, and I know we've taken a turn on this again, but again, it's the lessons.
It's the mental issues. Everybody might have them. It's hard to see them. And if he did have mental issues, wow, he hid them very well. We are really in trouble, because nobody recognized anything at all. So,
because they say with some people, they'll go in and out of depression. Nobody's even said that he had those times where he'd go into a dark space and he needed that time alone. Then know that could have been one of the times then he went into a dark space. And that's why the timing was awful, just after an anniversary and before Christmas when he has little kids. But the thing is, that's what mental health. And again, it's the lessons that we take from all of this, but also having the gratitude of what you have and not even comparing yourself to somebody else. Because just this morning, I read this lady, this article this lady wrote and said, sometimes I read how other people are having more success than I am. And other people have accomplished so much more. And she said, then I feel bad and I have to sit with my feelings for a while and think about my life. And then when I realize all the things that I have in my life and I can find the gratitude, I can get myself out of this funk. And I'm like, but why do you need to compare yourself to anybody? We're all at different stages of our success and our life. And what you are to your family and friends and your career is who you are, not somebody else. They're great in whatever their space is, but to feel bad that they have more success, that's your opinion.
Yeah. Well, it might not be in, it might not be in all areas of your life that you're looking at somebody else. like, I look at my two daughters that are home, and a lot of times they say, you know, why aren't we married? Why can't we find a husband? I said, well, it's not your time. Like, God is working in your lives, and he'll bring you somebody good. And so, but other ways, they're happy, they have their freedom, and they're involved in different things, and they have good jobs, and they work, and they live with us. They're very blessed that way. If that's what they want, that's what they can do. So yeah, some people may think just in certain areas of their lives they wish they could improve. But if that's the case, then change it. If you
Yes, that's a good point.
if you want something different, look for a way to change it.
Right, right.
Yeah.
So, I guess the message really in everything in life and whatever that it's out there, it's your life, and you take the lessons that you can. And like Andrea said, if you don't like something that's going on in your life, make a change. And if you know something's not working, stop doing that. Do
Right.
something else,
Right.
because you'll see the difference, and you don't have to make big changes. Little changes
Little
are all you really need.
baby steps.
Baby steps, absolutely baby steps.
Mhm.
So for this week, it was a lot heavy duty and actually right before Christmas, but I hope you enjoyed the episode. Andrea and I always enjoy doing them for you.
Yes.
We're really looking forward into, I'm going to say next week's episode, because next week we're going to talk about all the year end and going in the year forward, like 2023 around the corner. I'm excited about that, Andrea. And we wish you all a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and Happy Hanukkah. I believe that started, I think, at midnight last night. So
Yes.
people that are enjoying getting all those presents for the next 8 days, have fun with that. Don't overindulge if you can help it. But if you treat yourself, just remember what you need to do to keep I'll say the weight down, so that you don't pay the price in 2023.
Right. And just move on from it. Enjoy your day, and then
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
Yes.
I'm Linda.
I'm Andrea. Happy holidays. Enjoy.
We hope that you share,
Like,
and please subscribe. We're way under. We're going to talk about that on our next episode, and that's okay. We're not stopping.
Right. Okay.
Happy holidays, ladies.
Bye.